Right now, you are warm, and you didn't even have to think about it. A wall holds back the weather. Heat comes from somewhere you can't see. A coat hangs by the door you didn't kill anything to make. At this exact second, you are comfortable, and you earned exactly none of it. Now take all of it away. The walls, the heat, the coat, the food. Just bare skin, dropped into a cold deep enough to kill you in your sleep before you understand it's happening. On bare skin, you don't have days. You have hours. And here's the part that should bother you. For roughly 200,000 years, through the worst of the last ice age, that was not one terrible season. That was just Tuesday, every season. Generation after generation, born into a world actively trying to freeze them, and every single one in your direct line made it to spring at least long enough to make the next one. You're the proof. You exist, which means not one winter in that entire chain ever won. But here is what almost nobody realizes. It came within a breath of going the other way. A soft, hairless animal, built for the heat of Africa, had no business surviving the coldest era this planet ever threw at a human being. By every rule of biology, your line should have ended in the snow. So how did it not? That is what the next 12 minutes are about. By the end, you'll see that the deadliest thing your ancestors ever faced is the same thing you now complain about on the short walk to a warm car. If that grabs you, subscribe. This channel is all about the strange, brutal, brilliant reasons you are the way you are. Now, back to the problem. Your body is wrong for cold. No real fur, just goosebumps that do nothing. No blubber like a seal. You can't slow your heart and sleep through it like a bear. You're a tropical animal who took a wrong turn and ended up somewhere with snow. Naked, in deep cold, you measure your life in hours. And you had an audience. The mammoth was a walking furnace, wrapped in fur and fat. The cave bear crawled into the dark and slept the whole thing out. The reindeer simply left. Every other large animal had a built-in answer. You had none of them. What you had instead was a brain that could plan for a winter that hadn't arrived, and hands that could build the answer your body refused to grow. And it wasn't one clever idea. It was about 20, stacked one on top of the other. Lose enough, and you froze. So count them. Number 1. Fire. Everything else stands on top of it. By the depths of the Ice Age, your ancestors had had fire for 300,000 to 400,000 years, and they were good at it. At Ice Age sites in Ukraine, the hearths burned hot enough to crack bone. When the wood ran out on the open plains, they burned fat. They burned bone. Lose the fire, and you didn't get cold. You got dead. Number 2. Skins. Every animal out there was warmer than you, so you took the warmth off of them. There are cut marks on bear paw bones from more than 300,000 years ago, the exact marks you'd leave taking a skin off cleanly. But a skin draped loosely leaks heat at every gap. Better than nothing. Nowhere near enough. Which brings you to number 3, maybe the most important object on the list. The eyed needle, carved from bone, with a tiny hole to carry a thread. It shows up more than 50,000 years ago. It turns a loose, leaking blanket into fitted, sealed, layered clothing. Sleeves that close at the wrist. A garment that traps warm air against your skin instead of letting it pour out the bottom. Some researchers think better-fitted clothing helped modern humans push through where the Neanderthals couldn't. A sewing needle. That's the line between living and dying. Number 4. Tallow. Before you stepped into a wind that could strip the heat off your face, you greased up. Animal fat rubbed onto your face and neck, sealing it against the wind chill. Your ancestors had skincare, and it was a lot more practical than yours. Number 5 surprises people. Snow goggles made of bone. Sunlight blasting off endless snow can burn your eyes and blind you, and a blind hunter is a dead one. Snow blindness was a real killer. Eventually, someone carved a strip of bone with thin slits to look through, the first sunglasses made of bone. The oldest pairs ever found are about 2,000 years old, from the people of the Arctic, who were doing it long before any fashion brand took the credit. Number 6. A roof over your head. Out on the open steppe, there were no caves, no trees, no wood, nothing to build with. So at a place called Mezhirich, in Ukraine, they built houses out of mammoths. Nearly 150 mammoth bones and curving tusks fitted into domed walls, packed with hides and moss and earth. These homes are roughly 15,000 to 18,000 years old, good enough that families reused them for generations. With no wood and no stone, they made their homes out of the bones of giants. Number 7. The cold trap doorway. They dug the entrance lower than where they slept. Cold air sinks, warm air rises. The cold pouring through the doorway sank to the floor of the entrance and stayed there, while the warm air gathered up high, right where they were lying down. The design took advantage of the physics tens of thousands of years before anyone wrote it down. Number 8 sounds backwards. They used snow as insulation. A thick wall of snow blocks the wind completely and traps a pocket of air that holds steady near freezing, even when the open air drops far colder. Near freezing sounds miserable, but compared to what was outside, it was survivable. The cold thing was keeping them alive. Number 9. Where there were trees, they used them. A forest breaks the wind, and the wind is the real killer. A screaming day on the open plain becomes a calm one just inside the tree line. Same temperature on the thermometer. Completely different chance of seeing tomorrow. Number 10. Sealing every last gap. Moss stuffed into cracks. Mud smeared over seams. Tree pitch. The sticky sap from a wounded tree, used exactly the way you'd use caulk around a drafty window. Every crack sealed was a little more heat kept, and a little more heat was a little more life. So that's how you stay warm tonight. But warmth only solves the fast problem. Winter has a slower killer: hunger. The cold can take you in a night, but starvation takes the whole season. So how do you eat when nothing grows for months? Number 11. You let the cold do the work. The same cold trying to kill you froze your meat solid and kept it from rotting. A free, planet-sized freezer, used without ever understanding why it worked. Number 12. Smoking. Hang the meat over a slow, smoky fire, and it kept far longer. Number 13. Drying. Cut it thin, dry it hard, and you've made the original jerky. Number 14. Storage pits. They dug cellars into the cold earth where the temperature held low and steady. Number 15, and this one's clever, they sank mammoth meat to the bottom of cold ponds where the chilled water kept it from spoiling and hid it from scavengers. And through all of it ran one iron rule: nothing was wasted. The meat fed you, the fat fueled your fire, the bones built your house, the hide became your coat. Waste was a thing only people who weren't about to starve could afford. Number 16. The hunt got organized. You don't take down a herd one animal at a time when winter is coming. At a place called Solutré, in east-central France, they drove entire herds of horses and reindeer toward a natural trap, again and again, for tens of thousands of years. The same spot. The same trick. Across a span of time so long, it makes a human lifetime look like a blink. And here's the thing you most need to understand about these people. They expected winter. The hunting, the drying, the storing, the building, all of it pointed at a season they knew, with total certainty, was on its way. You're the one who gets surprised. You assume the heat will always be there, that the power comes back on, that the store will be open. They never assumed any of that. Winter wasn't a surprise. It was an appointment. Number 17 brings it back to your own warm body. Crowding. Lots of people packed under one roof, on purpose, because a human body is itself a source of heat. Pile enough warm bodies into a small sealed space, and the room gets noticeably warmer just from all of you breathing. So the person with a place to themselves wasn't the lucky one. They were the cold one. The old, the sick, and the alone died first. You're the proof of the opposite. Every ancestor in your line was, in some winter, close enough to other people to make it through. Lonely doesn't show up in your family tree. The lonely ones froze. Number 18 is the dark one. Sometimes a winter outlasted the food. The stores ran dry while the snow kept falling, and the math of survival turned ugly. There are human bones from this era that carry the same butchery marks you'd find on a hunted animal. Evidence of processing. Whether from starvation or something darker, the marks are real, in the ground. That's how far winter could push a human being. Number 19 lifts back up. Later, once people kept animals, they figured out something elegant. Bring the cattle and sheep onto the lower floor of the house, and their body heat rises through the floorboards into the rooms above, where the family slept. The animals you kept for milk and meat doubled as your central heating. The furnace was a cow. Number 20 takes you to the bottom of the world. At the freezing southern tip of South America, the Yaghan people lived close to naked in a place cold enough to make you flinch reading about it. Their bodies ran warmer than yours do by default. Their metabolism turned up like a banked fire, and they squatted low to cut the surface area losing heat. They didn't outclothe the cold. They outburned it. Their coat was their own body heat, And number 21 is the strangest one of all, so hold it gently, because the scientists themselves are still arguing about it. At a site in Spain known as the Pit of Bones, roughly 430,000 years old, some ancient human bones show something odd. The growth in them seems to stop and start in a cyclic, seasonal pattern, the same kind you see in animals that hibernate, which raises an almost unbelievable possibility that some early humans slowed their own bodies down and tried, in some rough way, to sleep through the winter. Be clear, this is contested. Plenty of serious scientists think there's a simpler explanation. But that honesty is exactly why it's worth telling. The fact that nobody's sure makes it more believable, not less. So count them up. Fire, skins, the needle, tallow, bone goggles, a house of mammoth bones, a cold trap door, snow walls, tree cover, sealed cracks, the frozen freezer, smoke, jerky, storage pits, ponds, the great hunt, the crowded room, the dark math, the living furnace, the burning metabolism, and maybe even sleep itself. About 20 answers to a problem your body simply could not solve on its own. And making it to spring was never a sure thing. Every winter was a test you could fail. And failing didn't mean a bad grade. It meant you didn't see the next one. The people who got it wrong don't have descendants telling their story. Now here's the kicker. In a couple of thousand years, which on this timeline is barely a breath, your species went from stacking the bones of mammoths into a shelter to pressing a single button and making heat appear. The deadliest, most relentless thing your ancestors ever faced, the war they fought and very nearly lost for hundreds of thousands of years, is now a minor inconvenience you grumble about on the short walk to a warm car. You beat winter so completely that you forgot you were ever losing it. So before you go, tell me down in the comments. Out of all 20-something of these, which one would you not have survived without? The fire? The needle? The crowded room? Be honest with yourself, then drop it below. And remember the whole thing. The next time you feel cold and reach, without thinking, for a button on the wall, you are the proof. Every winter, every brutal season in a chain stretching back further than you can imagine, your line won. Every time. You're warm right now because they never, ever lost. The least you can do is be a little impressed by it.